Good evening, Moss Family Chiropractic viewers. This is Dr. Moss with Moss Family Chiropractic. I'm excited to have you guys here for this live webinar all about how to shop smart. People always ask me about eating healthy, and I always tell people eating healthy really starts at the grocery store. If you don't buy it, you're not going to eat it at home. So tonight is all about how to make better decisions when you're in the grocery store. I really want to dig deep on some of the ingredients that are not good for us, because if you can figure out and understand how to read the ingredient label, not necessarily nutrition facts. I don't pay much attention to nutrition facts, because if the ingredient label lines up with our philosophy, then it's going to be a healthy piece of food. So I want you to understand when you should put it back on the shelf versus put it in the cart. So this is going to be fun. I want this to be interactive. I know I have a lot of newer patients that are on this right now. I have a lot of seasoned veteran patients that are on this right now, just getting a refresher. But I want you guys to ask questions. Those of you that know a lot of this stuff, comment. I want people to know that it's not just about me giving you this information. It's all of us understanding how to be healthy together. So if you know something or you know where to get it cheaper, comment. We want to put those up on the screen so you can be part of this conversation as well. And if you do like this video, if you feel like what we're doing is bringing this content is bringing value to your health, please like our pages, subscribe to them, and even share them if you're on Facebook right now. So what are we here to talk about? Well, we're talking about health, and how health comes from inside of every single one of us. And it all starts with what we call the 5 essentials of max living. And max living doctors, we put this together, but we didn't invent it. What we really did is just figured out a way to deliver it. It's something that every single human being needs. We only need 5 of these things to do. And thank God, I always tell people, thank God we only need to do 5, not 10. But these 5 things are pertinent, they are important, and we all need to do it if we want our body to heal and function the way all of us were designed to heal and function. I want to go through these 5 essentials for just a couple seconds. Again, some of this is going to be refreshed, and some of this is going to be new information for some of you. But as a chiropractor, for me, it all starts with the nervous system, because that's where God put the power that created every single one of us. It's the power that makes our heart beat and our lungs breathe. It's that power that creates a human being inside of a mom. And that power that created us is still inside of us. This is how you can cut your finger and your body's going to heal from that cut. Just like your body can heal from a cut, it can heal from a virus, it can heal from cancer if there's nothing blocking the information coming from the brain, going down your spinal cord to your body. So we call that 100% healing, 100% function. That's when your body's in a state of ease, and that means your body's doing what it needs to do to be healthy. Now, if there's some type of interference between your brain and your body, that's called dis-ease. Sounds a lot like disease. And the only difference between those two is that one is an end result of a state, and that state is a state of dis-ease. If there is a misalignment in your spine, putting pressure on the nerve, that's called a subluxation, is now interfering with that power coming from the brain, going to the body, puts your body into a state of dis-ease, which left uncorrected over time will lead to dysfunction, disease, and an early death. So the best thing that we could do as a chiropractor is take pressure off of people's nervous systems, allow their body to get into a better state, and that's a state of ease, and then keep them there from the day that they're born to the day that they die. Those people will always be healthier than people that are not taking care of their nervous system. So once we get our body healing and functioning better by removing the sources of interference, those subluxations in our spine, then we need to look at the 4 rest of these essentials. One of the ones that we're going to talk about here tonight is nutrition. I know a lot of people look at diets, and there's fad diets, and there's paleo, and there's this, and there's that, and nobody ever understands what's real, what's the truth, what's a sales gimmick, what. And I really want to dive deeper into nutrition tonight, again, and how it pertains to improving the quality of the ingredients that you're already cooking with. I used to think that eating healthy meant I had to eat bird food for the rest of my life, or I had to just eat vegetables. I had to give up all the things I really enjoyed, and that's not the truth. And I would never ask you to give up those things, but I would ask you to do is improve the quality of the ingredients that you're already using to cook with. So that doesn't mean you need to throw away your cookbooks. That means you make substitutions. So like this weekend, I'm making cheeseburgers for my family, but I'm going to be using grass-fed beef. I'm going to be using grass-fed cheese, and I'm going to be not using a bun. We went to a place down in Atlanta called Yeah Burger, and they have gluten-free buns, which is okay and all, but they had collard green wraps that they blanch in hot water for just a second to make it a little bit softer. And after that, I don't really want a burger with bread anymore because I feel so much better after eating that burger with collard green wrap than I do with breads. And my family loves it. So those little substitutions make a big difference. The next essential is mindset. And I went through, I touched upon this a few minutes ago when I was talking about the nervous system, but the mindset has to be that you are supposed to be healthy. God gave you everything that you needed to be healthy. It's inside of you already. And if you are not healthy right now, there is a reason. Something's blocking that power. And what you need to do is find somebody to help you figure out what is it that's blocking you and how do we remove that. And when you look at those 5 essentials on the screen right now, it's usually one of those 5. A lot of times it's in the nervous system because people don't think about that. But sometimes it could be eating poorly, or detox, or you're toxic, or you're not getting enough oxygen to your cells because you're not exercising. But when you really understand that if your body's in a state of healing, you're in a state of health, your body's going to heal, it's going to function better, and you're supposed to be there. And if you're not, you need somebody to help you figure that out. And that's what Max Living's mission is, to help people live a healthier life, purposeful life, and never let your health get in your way of doing what you want to do on this earth. The next essential there is oxygen and exercise, because we need to move. We need to exercise. And when I talk about exercise, I'm not talking about just going for a walk after dinner, which I think is a fantastic thing to do anyway. I'm talking exercising with intention. And that intention is to burn fat, build muscle, and get oxygen to your cells to minimize your chances of getting diseases like cancer and heart disease and type 2 diabetes. And when you're doing these things on a regular basis, you don't have to spend a lot of time doing it. We teach what's called the Max T3 workout, which is a 12-minute workout. I mean, we work out 36 minutes a week right now. I'm in better shape now at age 43 than I ever was in my entire life, and I played college hockey. So it's not hard to do. It's just knowing how to do it. And then the last one there is minimizing your exposure to toxins. And toxins are everywhere. And I have workshops hour long, 2 hours long, all about this, because there's so many toxins in the world, which is why we can't avoid toxins. We need to minimize our exposure to toxins. And we help you through information, education. And you start to make small changes, like changing your deodorant, changing the things you clean your house with. Instead of using Glade plugins, how about using essential oils? Just little things like that can make a huge difference in your health. But again, like I said, if you do all 5 of these, you are going to be healthier. That's the end all be all of all this. If you want to be healthy, do all 5. We can help you with that. But tonight, we're focusing on just one of the essentials, which is nutrition. And like I said, good nutrition truly starts with your decisions that you make at the grocery store. So how do you become a good shopper? I'd say one of the most important things I've ever done when I became a better shopper was planning ahead. If you know what your menu looks like during the week, you can go to the store once a week, buy everything you need for the entire week. I'm telling you, it changed every way, the whole way I think about shopping and eating. So I go shopping on Tuesday mornings. I typically go to Whole Foods, and then I go to Costco, and sometimes I'll go to Kroger. Those are my 3 places that I typically go. And on Monday night, and sometimes on Tuesday morning, my wife and I will sit down, and I have an index card. Some of you have seen it before. And on that index card, we make a menu for the week. So I could call my wife right now and say, honey, what are we having for dinner on Saturday? She could go to the refrigerator and point it out and tell me what we're having for lunch on Saturday. And that makes me sound very organized. And I am organized when it comes to that, but I never was in my entire life. Because it used to be, what do you want for dinner tonight, honey? I don't know. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. Pizza? I mean, that's typically what it comes down to, or fast food, or that comfort food, the quick, easy, I don't really care. I just want something that tastes good, right? And then you end up doing that more and more often. Then you gain more and more weight, and then you start having health issues. So my wife and I, we sit down, we make that list, we make our menu, and then I turn it over on the back, and that's where I have my list. I have my Whole Foods list, I have my Costco list, and my Kroger list. And I go through all the things. We have our staples that we run out of, like almond milk and almond butter and eggs and butter and those types of things. But then I have specific things for the menu items so that I have everything I need in one trip. So we're not going to the store every single day. I typically go once a week. And if I forget something or they're out of something, I might have to go back and pick up 1 or 2 things. But when it comes to actually doing the shopping, I don't like to say I'm even shopping. Because shopping to me is going to the store, looking around, what's this like, what's that like, what's over here, let me see what's down this aisle. I know my stores so well. I can be in and out of Whole Foods in about 20 minutes and have a cart full of everything. I can be in and out of Costco in probably about 12 minutes because I'm not shopping. I'm executing a list. And when you do that, you're not spending hours. So a lot of people don't like shopping because it takes too long. You're not shopping. If it's on the list, you buy it. And my wife knows this really well because she'll be like, hey, honey, you didn't get the almond butter. I'm like, it wasn't on the list. But you get it every week. I'm like, it wasn't on the list. I didn't think we needed it because I'm not looking for things. I'm just executing that list. And I'm telling you, it saves you money because you're not looking at things you don't need. You're just getting the things that you do. Okay? So that is very, very important. But quality of the ingredients that you're buying is going to be obviously the number one in priorities. So label reading, this is very important. I want you to start looking for the least amount of ingredients. If there's more than like 7 or 8 ingredients, I'm already going to put it back because I know there's probably a lot of junk in there that I don't need. Every once in a while, I'll find an exception to that rule, but typically the fewer ingredients, the better. I really like things that don't have ingredient labels on them at all. Although every once in a while you get thrown a loop. I had a friend of mine in Chattanooga, he's a doctor, and he sent me a picture of a tomato that was in the grocery store, and it had a sticker on it that says with real tomato flavor. I don't know what that means. I don't understand why they would need to put a label or a sticker that said that on it. And good thing I don't like tomatoes anyway, but I thought that was quite interesting. I'm looking for more natural ingredients, things that you can actually pronounce. If you can't pronounce it, it's a real long word, it's probably not a good thing for you to put in your body. If there's a number in the middle of that word, it's something that's probably man-made as well, so you don't want those things. And then I want you to, in the beginning of changing up how you're doing this and starting to shop smarter, I really want you to start reading the ingredient label of everything that you put into your cart. Now, I'm going to tell you, when you first start doing this, it's going to take a while because you're there on a mission to learn and see which ones are better. Because if you're going to get ketchup, you need to find out which ketchup passes the test or which mayonnaise passes the test. So you're going to spend a lot of extra time in those first few visits. But after that, then you know which brand of this is the best. I'm going to get that one only. But I will tell you, once you get faster at that, it's still a good idea to read the labels every 6 months or so of something that you've just been throwing in your cart because you already know what's in it. Because they will change the ingredients and not saying anything about it. They're not going to say new ingredients on the back. We've made our worst product. Look at the back. They're not going to say these things. You need to, again, you're the consumer. You're your own advocate. You need to start turning those things around every 6 months or so. Just check to make sure that nothing went awry. And then anything that's man-made, I always just put it back on the shelf. It doesn't go near my cart. So sometimes you start reading it, I put it right back, and I play this game with my kids. I teach my kids this stuff because one day they're not going to be under my roof. They're going to have to do this for themselves. So they want something that I know is not going to pass the test. So I tell them, start reading the label and tell me when you should put it back. And usually it's like the first or second ingredient. And they're like, oh. So again, I want to empower future shoppers. I want them to understand that this is not just for adults and parents. Get your kids involved in this. So label reading don'ts. I don't like worrying about the types. I don't like worrying about the amounts. So I don't really look so much at how much fat, how much salt, how much of this and that, because if you read the ingredients and they pass the test, typically the nutrient label will align with that. And that's typically the case. Every once in a while, I'll look at sugar because sometimes they do put more sugar in there than they should have. Even if it's natural sugar, I still don't want a lot of sugar in any of my products. Beware of questionable marketing. Just because it says organic or all natural or even gluten-free does not mean it's good for you. There's a lot of gluten-free crap out there, and it's bad for you. There's organic stuff out there that's no good for you. Just because you bought the organic version does not make it healthy for you. You still need to read the ingredient labels. Now, this is something you might want to write down. We call these writer-downers. If you have a pad and paper, write these things down. These are some of the things that I try to avoid when I'm reading my labels. These are immediate. I'm putting them back on the shelf. Number 1 is monosodium glutamate. Monosodium glutamate is a neurotoxin. It's awful for the brain. It's awful for the nervous system. People have really bad reactions to it, and they can't figure out what's causing it. It makes you want more of it. So I bet you can't eat just one. You know, think about it. Have you ever eaten one Dorito? Probably not. And you would be like, there's no way they'd put something that bad in something that tastes that good. But then you go down the list and you see right in the middle of the ingredient label, monosodium glutamate, MSG, not good for you. But the reason why monosodium glutamate does that to your brain, it's very high in glutamic acid, which is not, it's a neurotoxin, it's not good, it's stuff we need to avoid. You can also find high glutamic acid foods in other foods, like hydrolyzed vegetable protein. Hydrolyzed, honestly, anything after the word hydrolyzed, I don't want that in my body, so I'm putting that back on the shelf. So if it says hydrolyzed, anything else, put it back. If it says autolyzed, anything else, put it back. So hydrolyzed, autolyzed, you'll see a lot of autolyzed yeast extract, or just in general yeast extract, or torula, T-O-R-U-L-A, torula yeast extract. Those, again, are high in glutamic acid. Those are things that we don't want a lot into our body. And I've not eaten that for a long time, so much so that if I eat something that has it, my head hurts. And it's never been that way in my entire life. I've eaten thousands and thousands of things that were not good for me when I was younger. If I eat it now, I can absolutely tell. And those are the things that they use to sweeten and flavor. So if you're buying chips and they have any flavor other than salt and pepper, or not even pepper, salt, it's typically got yeast extract in it. So you really want to avoid those. If you're doing chips, you should be getting the chips that are, I call these better bad choices, because, every once in a while it's fun to make a bad choice, right? I like chips, but if you're going to make a bad choice, let's make the best bad choice there is. So I'm just going to go, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but if you're going to get potato chips, try to get them organic, which would be nice, but it's really the oil that they fry them in that was what you need to watch out for. So vegetable oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, these are all vegetable oils, corn oil. These are things that we try to avoid. Avocado. So Kettle makes them in avocado oil chips. Those are fantastic with Himalayan salt. Those are actually decent. Because they're potatoes, they're not the best thing for you, but that's the best bad choice I could make. Coconut oil would be another version, coconut oil chips. So going down that list, artificial sweeteners. So artificial sweeteners are excitotoxins. These are, again, things that are bad for the brain. Splenda, which is called sucralose. And if you look at this is kind of silly, but the chemical name for Splenda is called sucralose. And if you read that very quickly, it looks a lot like sucrose, which is sugar. And they did that on purpose so people would not know. They wouldn't see that, they wouldn't catch on. So sucralose is not good for us. Aspartame, NutraSweet, Equal, saccharin, all of these things are not good for us. We do not want these diet sweeteners, artificial sweeteners. So if it says no sugar, you have to think, well, what did they put in it to make it taste good? A chemical to trick your body into thinking it was sweet. I don't want chemicals in my body. We're trying to minimize our exposure to toxins. So you need to really watch out for that. What do you need to do? Minimize that. Read those labels. They're in there. Anything that's sweet and doesn't have sugar in it has got sucralose in it. That's what they're all using these days. Hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated. Anything else after that? Again, this is your trans fats. Typically, they're doing partially hydrogenated or hydrogenated vegetable oils, which is trans fats, which is, again, we know that it's bad for us. But your doctor knows it's bad for us. Everybody knows it's bad for you, but they can get away with putting it in there still. And my next slide, I'm going to show you that. So refined flour, white flour, we don't want a lot of white flour. If we're going to do flour at all, it needs to be whole grain. White rice, I reserve for sushi because I don't like brown rice with my sushi, but typically at home, I only have brown rice in my house. Again, it's better for our digestive system. It's better for our gut. It's better for our body. And then additives, colorings, preservatives, all these chemical names. It's usually the last one, two, or three ingredients that you read are all chemicals. And there are things there to make it flavored. There's things in there to make it colored and to give it a longer shelf life. And all those things are good for nobody except the manufacturer. The longer the shelf life of the product, the shorter the shelf life of the person who is consuming it. So remember that. If it goes bad quickly, that's a good thing. If it can be on the shelf for 5 years, I don't want to eat that. Well, how is that even possible? I don't like that. Okay. So we were talking about partially hydrogenated oils being trans fats. Well, here's an example for you. This is Skippy smooth peanut butter. And right there on the front, it says very boldly, no trans fats. But what I just taught you was a trans fat is a partially or fully hydrogenated oil. So if you look on that right side, you read the ingredients: freshly roasted peanuts. We're off to a good start. Then you have soybean oil, which is not one of the good oils. We don't want soybean oil in our body. So at that point, I would already put it back. But then you have maltodextrin, which is a sugar high in glutamic acid, which is also neurotoxic. Icing, sugar, and then look at that, hydrogenated vegetable oil. It's right there. The truth is always in the ingredients. Hydrogenated vegetable oil, but they say no trans fats on the front. How can they get away with that? Well, in 2006, the FDA came out with a rule that said you can call your product trans fat free or free trans fats as long as there's less than 500 milligrams of trans fats per serving. So these companies all freaked out and said, what are we going to do? Well, they did something very sly. They changed their size of their serving to make it so that there's less than 500 milligrams of trans fat per serving. So if you read the front is just marketing. It's the crap that they put on the front to make you want to buy it. There's never truth in marketing. You turn around the back, the truth is in the ingredients, and this is why you're here tonight. I want to empower you to learn and know so you never buy this stuff again. So another example for you, this is a health food, okay? A health food because it's a vegetable protein. It's a vegetable sausage. So you would think, oh, sausage made of vegetable. My doctor told me I shouldn't eat sausage anymore, but vegetables sound good. A vegetable sausage, I mean, that probably passes my cardiologist test, right? Because that's good for me. So let's read the ingredients. Textured vegetable protein. All right, I'm already kind of sick, so I'd probably put that back already, but let's just keep going. We have soy protein concentrate. We don't really want soy. We don't like soy. Egg whites, corn oil. That's one of those bad omega-6 oils. We don't want corn oil. Put that on your bad list. Contains 2% or less of salt. Sodium caseinate. I want you to write that one down. Sodium caseinate. That's Caseinate. That's also high in glutamic acid, just like MSG. So they're putting a lot of that in it because it's pretty high up on that list to make it taste good. Soy protein isolate, sugar, cellulose gum, modified potato starch, canola oil, autolyzed yeast extract, hydrolyzed vegetable protein. Do you guys see how many things they're putting in there to make it taste better and make you want to eat more of it? This is not good stuff. So again, this is being touted as a health food when it's actually destroying your health. Again, they want you to buy their crap. I want you to be healthy, okay? All right, so here's some things to do when you're shopping. Keep your basics stocked, obviously. I like to go to Costco for certain things. I like to buy them in bulk. I do have a family of 5, and I know I have a lot of patients who are single, and they're like, I can't go to Costco because it's just the things are too much. And listen, if you were to buy, 6 avocados, that's probably going to be too much for you, but you can still go get meats at Costco. I get all of my organic meats at Costco, chicken at least. I get my chicken at Costco, so you can get chicken wings, you can get chicken drumsticks, chicken breasts, and chicken thighs. They're all in 3-packs, and you might not need all that, so you cut one off, keep that one fresh, freeze the other 2. They defrost real well. I do that all the time. They have actually really good prices on fish at Costco, but a lot of times I get my fish at Whole Foods because they usually have fresh, maybe a little bit fresher fish and a different variety. Sometimes with Costco, you get what they get, and that's all you got. So it's like salmon or tuna or sometimes monkfish. But I like to buy a lot of those things in bulk there. Almond, like my almond meal. Almond flour, I guess I'll get at Costco. Eggs I get at Costco. Almond milk I get at Costco. So as we go through here, I'm going to try to think of some other things of where I get what, because I know I had a patient asking me, where do you get what? And if you're on here right now and you have a specific question, feel free to ask me. Whitney will put it up here. So if you're thinking it, somebody else is probably thinking it also. And another thing, I don't know if Whitney's done it yet, but we do have a shopping smart guide that we can get to all of our viewers here tonight. And all you got to do is text SHOP, SHOP, to our phone number, which is 770-345-9355. And you will be sent a link to a PDF that you can print yourself, and you'll be able to go through some of the things we talked about here tonight. So another thing I want to go through here is what's best, fresh food, frozen food, or canned. And it's quite interesting that most people would think fresh is the best. I even have it on there as fresh is the best, because technically it is. If you grew it yourself, it's the best. And here's why fresh would be the best. If you can pick that fruit or vegetable at its peak ripeness, full of nutrition, off the vine when it's there and it's perfectly ripe, it's fully matured, it's got all the nutrition it needs. And you're going to get everything you need out of that. But if you think about like a banana, for example, if you were to, in Jamaica, pick the banana when it's at its full ripeness and then get it to Kroger here in Canton, what's it going to look like by the time it got here? Probably brown mush covered in fruit flies, right? So they can't pick them at their full ripeness. What they have to do is pick them green, and then they bring them to the store, and then they gas them with ethylene gas to speed up the process of maturing and ripening. And then that's why they ripen, and you can see those little brown dots all over them. That's the gas on there. So that's not going to be full of potassium like you think it is. But if you went to Jamaica and pulled a yellow banana off the tree, it would taste different because it's fully ripened. So again, if you go to your farmers markets or your own backyard, your own garden, your own farm, fresh is going to be the best. The second best is going to be frozen. Sometimes it's the first best because you can't have access to some of those things. And the reason why frozen can be better than anything else is that you can pick a strawberry at its full peak ripeness and freeze it right then and there. And it won't ripe. It won't ripen further. It won't go bad. So a lot of these like fruits and vegetables, I like to get frozen because I know they're full of more nutrients than some of the stuff that's fresh. So for my smoothies, I typically don't ever buy fresh organic berries. They're typically too expensive unless they're in season. Like right now, strawberries are in season. You're getting 2 pounds for like $5, which is awesome. Well, in January, I want strawberry smoothie. They're $12, $14 for 2 pounds. And how old are they? You know, are they even good? So I like to typically get my frozen berries, strawberries, my blueberries, mango even. You can get those at Costco. That's the cheapest place I found to buy frozen berries. The number one thing to buy, though, and to change the quality of is going to be your animal products. So your chicken, your beef, your fish. So quickly going through this, you need to start thinking about what your food ate before you ate it. So think about it. I mean, these are animals we're eating. What was their diet like? Do you want to eat the one that was healthy, or do you want to eat the one that was sick and diseased because it ate poorly? Now, if they're out in the wild, they're typically all healthy because they're eating wild things. So beef and cow, they're eating grass. That's what they're supposed to eat. But when you start to give it grain because it fattens them up and makes more money for the farmer, they get sick. And when they get sick, they need to now pump them full of antibiotics to keep them from dying. So now you're getting meat that is sick because they fed it a poor diet, made it big and fat, and it was sick, so you gave them antibiotics. I don't want to eat that cow. I want to eat the happy cow that was out in the field eating and grazing and doing what it's supposed to do, the way God intended it to. So this is why grass-fed beef is much, much, much healthier than your corn-fed, grain-fed beef. So always look for grass-fed beef, and anything that comes from a cow should also be grass-fed. So your milk should be grass-fed, cheese, yogurt, anything that comes from a cow should be from grass-fed cows. Chicken should be organic. You don't want them eating feed. You want them eating worms and bugs and the stuff that chickens typically do. So organic, free-range chicken would be best. Same with the eggs that come from those chickens. And then when we're talking about fish, we used to think farm-raised was the way to go because we can control the environment. And that's completely ridiculous because what they're doing is they're taking salmon, putting them into the Atlantic, putting them in bins and farms, and then they're feeding them corn. That's ridiculous. We don't want corn-raised salmon. It means nothing. The whole reason why salmon is good for you is because of what it ate. It ate a diet that created high omega-3 fatty acids, which are anti-inflammatory, which we want to eat a lot of. But when they fed corn, they become diseased salmon. We don't want that. So what do we need to do? We need to eat wild-caught fish. So salmon is probably the healthiest fish out there. Flounder is healthy for you. You want to minimize some of the bigger ones like swordfish, tuna, grouper. As much as I love those fish, I just don't eat. They're not my staples. They're every once in a while fish. Tilapia is not on my list of healthy fish because it's not. It's a warm water fish and it's typically farm raised. So those are some of the major changes we need to do. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go into what we call the top 10 toxic foods. And I'm going to go through these foods, and some of them are going to spend a little bit more time on, some a little bit less time on, and I'm going to try to make some suggestions as we go. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to comment in Facebook, comment in YouTube, and let us know what questions you might have. So the number one is commercial salad dressing. I'm sure if you guys open your refrigerator, just like I used to, I'd open my refrigerator and I'd have 10 to 15 different salad dressings in there, and you never know how old they are because you keep buying new ones, right? Well, I don't have any in my door anymore because I make all of my own now, because these things are toxic. The stuff that they're putting in commercial salad dressing is, once you understand it, it's ridiculous. I mean, they're putting high fructose corn syrup in there, so there's tons of sugar in these things. They use all bad fat. They're not using olive oils. Now, understand there's some out there that will use just olive oil or just avocado oil, but they're very hard to find. Like the typical ones at Wishbone and Hidden Valley Ranch, those are awful for you. And you can make them the same, but better and healthier ingredients just by finding the recipes at home and making it at home. So they have MSG in them, they have colorings. So this is just an example of some of the things that don't put in these. So this is one of the popular dressings: water, and then you have soybean and canola oil. At this point, I would already put it back on the shelf. I don't want soybean oil, I don't want canola oil. But if I were to continue, distilled vinegar, sugar, depends on how much there is, salt, dehydrated garlic and onion, red bell pepper, maltodextrin. Now I'm starting to question it even more. Then you have your autolyzed yeast extract, and now I'm definitely done. Okay, but honestly, I would have been done at soybean oil. So just start thinking about making your own dressings. I'm going to give you guys a recipe that's very easy to do. It's called a French vinaigrette. So if you have your pen and paper handy, I would suggest pulling it out. This is my go-to, and you can actually, it's very versatile because you can make it and then you can add a couple different little ingredients and make it into a Greek dressing. So here's the dressing. It is a half a teaspoon of sea salt. It is a half a teaspoon of black pepper. It is 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Check your ingredients for the Dijon and make sure there's no coloring in them. Koops is one of my favorite, Koops. It's one of my favorite brands for my Dijon that I use. 3 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. And then you whisk all that together, and then you slowly drizzle in olive oil or avocado oil, and you're doing 4 tablespoons, which is a 1/4 cup. So that is my go-to. It tastes great. It tastes fantastic. Kids love it. If you wanted to make a Greek dressing, you could cut back on the Dijon mustard a little bit and just do a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. And then you can add in a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, a half a teaspoon of onion powder, a half a teaspoon of oregano, dried oregano, and a half a teaspoon of dried basil. So hopefully you got all that. If you need to, we can always send that to you. But those are some just simple things you could do. And it takes a minute, maybe 2 minutes to just put them all in, mix it all up, and you have a fresh, tasty, healthy dressing. All right. Number 2, candy. We all know candy is not good for us, right? It's high in sugar, high fructose corn syrup. A lot of times they're using bad fats. If you ever want your kids to never want gummy bears again, I did this. Go on YouTube and look up gummy bears in reverse. And they start with a gummy bear and they go back to pig fat, and it's disgusting. And the unfortunate thing is, it's the truth. It's where gelatin comes from. So I really try to steer clear of most sources of gelatin because that's what it's coming from. Pig hooves. It's just gross stuff. These are empty calories. This is a fast track to type 2 diabetes. Snickers itself has 7 teaspoons of sugar. I don't know why my Hershey's dark chocolate bar didn't get on there very well. 5.5 teaspoons. So listen, I like candy. I know you probably like candy. Who doesn't like something sweet every once in a while? So I'm gonna give you a better bad choice. Instead of buying your typical junk food, if you have that hankering for chocolate, get yourself some organic chocolate, some fair trade chocolate. Go with the dark chocolate. When you go with the dark chocolate, there's less sugar in it, and dark chocolate is actually good for you. So those are some other options. For like peanut butter cups, Real, Unreal. It's Unreal. The brand's called Unreal. They actually use real ingredients to make peanut butter cups. And the peanut butter cups I'm going to tell you I've had, they are fantastic. They make Reese's peanut butter cups, my all-time favorite. Tastes like crap. I'm sorry. They taste awful. They are not good for you. These ones are at least better for you if you're going to do something like that. So we have a question coming in. from Mike. So what amount of sugar is excessive with diabetes, and sugar-free cookies off the shelf? Okay, so sugar-free cookies, anything that's sugar-free, you really want to start questioning, how did it get sweet then? All right, so you need to really read those labels. I bet you money that there's something like sucralose in those cookies. So I would probably steer clear from those. Now, if you wanted sugar-free cookies, what's really neat about this, if you are diabetic, we have what's called the Advanced Nutrition Plan, something I'm going to be going over here at the end. And that Advanced Nutrition Plan is great for type 2 diabetics. Actually, I've reversed so many of our patients' type 2 diabetes just by eating this Advanced Nutrition Plan. It's similar to keto, but it's not keto because it's safer than keto because we still allow you to have some carbs. And we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But there are recipes on my website that you can make like almond flour cookies. You sweeten them with things like xylitol, which is a sugar alcohol, or stevia. So if you're using those more natural, non-insulin, I guess they don't really affect your insulin levels. Those are going to be a healthy version for you that you can eat those. Like we make black bean brownies at my house with xylitol, and they're made with black beans and cocoa and cinnamon, and I think there's a little bit of salt and xylitol in them, and there's no sugar in them. They taste fantastic, and they're our go-to when like our kids need a treat for their class, and the kids love them, and they have no idea they're actually good for you. So going back to your question, Mike, about how much sugar is too much sugar. The average American male, I was group male and female together, but 35 grams of sugar, we need to have that amount or less every day. If you don't want to have type 2 diabetes, you need to keep your intake of sugar under 35 grams in an entire day. And then you pick up a 12-ounce Coke, and you see that there's 48 grams of sugar in that one Coke. And who drinks one, right? So you can see why we have a problem in the United States with, being overweight, obesity, type 2 diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. They're all related to, living a poor lifestyle. And all we need to do is make better choices. So, Mike, if you want those cookies, we have recipes on my website that for healthier versions of these cookies, and you can have a bunch of them because they're all good for you. Okay. All right. Number 3, deli and packaged meats. So deli and packaged meats typically are poorer quality meats. I've never seen a turkey breast look like a lump in a package like that before. It's completely processed. And don't get me wrong, again, I like a good club sandwich, okay? But even boar's head, people argue with me, boar's head's good for you. I'm like, boar's head's not good for you. There is MSG in a lot of these, but what the thing is, nitrites and nitrates. Nitrites and nitrates are the stuff that make it look fresh, make things look red. So you're typically going to find nitrates and nitrites in ham and pepperoni and bacon and hot dogs. I just ruined everything for you, I'm sure. But the good news is you can find nitrate and nitrite-free bacon and hot dogs. You just have to look a little bit harder for them. And the good news is they have them at Whole Foods. They don't have them at Costco, but they do have them at Kroger. They do have them at Publix. So they do have them very local to my office. So it's not that hard to find these higher quality ingredient things. You just have to look for them. Going back to the deli meat, you can find organic meat. So Applegate Farms is typically the one that I would recommend if you were going to do it. Now, they don't have it in the deli, the actual deli. They have it in the prepackaged part, which I don't like the prepackaged stuff. If I was going to do it, I would want it fresh. But at the same point, it's deli meat. Eat it within 3 days, you should be okay. But nitrites and nitrates, they've been banned in many, many countries. In fact, the World Cancer Research Fund concluded in 2009 that processed meats are too dangerous for human consumption. And they said that people that are consuming nitrites have a 57% greater chance of developing stomach cancer and 67% increase in risk of pancreatic cancer. So getting rid of your nitrites and nitrates is a very important step to do, and it's not that hard because it's not going to make your food taste worse. That's my favorite part about all the things I'm teaching here tonight, is that when you make these changes, especially let's say you're mom and you're the one who does all the cooking and the shopping, and you make these changes, your family's probably not going to have any idea. They're going to be healthier because of it, but it's not going to change the flavor most of the time. Sometimes it makes it even better. Now, white bread. White bread it's not just wheat anymore. You can't even, I don't know if you can even read this. This is one of the popular white bread ingredients. Enriched white bread, I'm trying to figure out if I can read this. All these different B vitamins to make you healthy, right? High fructose corn syrup, so there's sugar in it. Of course, there's got to be yeast in it. And there's all these other things in there. That's like, why are you putting all that in there? There's soy in there. There's whey in there. Calcium propionate. There's enzymes. It's like, why are we putting all this stuff in there? It should be wheat and maybe, flour. I mean, eggs and yeast. I mean, you don't need much to make good bread. But again, they're putting that stuff in there, the soybean oil, because it's stable at room temperature. It's stable on the shelf. Those breads will last longer. And again, if that lasts longer on the shelf, you will not last as long when you eat it. So why is white stuff so bad? Why white bread and white potatoes and white rice? Well, we had a workshop a couple months ago about gut health. We went into depth about it. I suggest you take a look at that. It is on our YouTube page. It's all about your gut health, but it actually spikes your insulin levels a lot higher, a lot faster, and then it goes right back down. So you get this big burst of feel-good energy. That's why it's like a comfort food. And then you crash and you feel bad again. And then you keep doing this, and this really burns out your insulin. It burns out your pancreas. And this is what leads to burnout, insulin resistance, weight gain, weight loss resistance, and eventually type 2 diabetes. So what you do is you change your white bread and move to whole grain bread. Even better, let's go to Ezekiel bread, which they have, again, at Kroger and Whole Foods. Ezekiel bread would be good for you because it's slower to digest. You don't get this big spike of insulin. You get a slow rise and a slow fall, which is much easier on your body. It's much better for your whole overall health. And it's not going to make you turn that sugar quickly into fat because your body can't handle all of it. So making those changes, again, whole grain over white bread all day long. Brown rice instead of white rice. Sweet potato instead of white potato. Okay, those are some minor changes that are going to have big health effects in the long run. Then you have your sprayed produce. So a lot of your produce is sprayed with pesticides to make sure that the bugs don't eat it so they don't lose their crop. And then you turn around and you eat it. Even if you wash the stuff, it's still going to be in the food. So it contributes to an overall toxic load. Guys, this is stuff that you need to know. And what we really follow is what we call the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. And this is, I want you to write this website down, www.ewg.org. Or you can just Google Clean 15 or Dirty Dozen. And the EWG is it's a nonprofit database to make sure people know what toxins are, where they are, and how toxic things are. So we can use them as a third-party, non-biased resource. And what they do every year, they put out what's called the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen list. And the Dirty Dozen are typically the 12 most highly toxic, highly sprayed fruits and vegetables. Anything on that list, I 100% want to buy organic only. I won't even consider buying it if it wasn't organic. On the Clean 15 side, those are things that are either not sprayed very much, don't need to be sprayed, or they have a very hard, thick skin that you're not going to eat anyway and you can peel and it won't go through it. These are ones that I can buy conventional. I don't have to buy organic. So, for example, asparagus is on the Clean 15. So typically I buy regular asparagus. Now, if I go to the store and I see that asparagus is $3.99 a pound for conventional and $7.99 a pound for organic, I'm buying the conventional because I know it's pretty clear. It's on the Clean 15. If it's $3.99 for conventional and $4.25 for organic, I'd probably spring the extra 25 cents a pound. And sometimes that does happen, and get the organic. Why not? It's probably gonna be a little bit better for you. And it's just a value thing. So apples is typically, it's been known to be the dirtiest of all the fruits. And this is from last year. And every year it does change, so you'll want to update it. But apples has always been number one on the list until this past year, which was peaches. But here's why apples were on the list. And it's quite interesting. They took an apple and they tested the outside for pesticides, and it was full of pesticides. So they scrubbed it and washed it like you should do for all of your fruit. And then they tested again, and they still had residue of pesticide on it. So they thought if they just peeled it and gone on the inside, they wouldn't find any pesticides. And sure enough, in the apple, they found pesticides. They went all the way down to the core and still found pesticides. So this is why any apple that I consume or my family consumes, I want to make sure it's 100% organic. Organic, they are not using pesticides on organic foods. Okay, so I want any apples, any apple juice, apple pie, anything that we're making, apple sauce, I want that to be organic, especially for those of you that have young kids and babies that love their applesauce. Just move over to organic applesauce. And I believe that Whole Foods has a pretty decent price for their organic applesauce. So you always want to look at both of these lists. You tend to end up memorizing them, but a lot of the lettuces, a lot of the berries are typically on the dirty dozen side. And then the stuff like eggplant with a harder papaya, watermelon, avocado, those are the hard outer layers. Those are typically on the clean 15. So this is something that you would want to print out. They make a little printable version you can put in your wallet and take to the store when you start making your changes to your shopping. All right, margarine. This is one of the most toxic things we put in our body. I can't believe it's not butter. I always say I can't believe you'd put that in your body. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's a 100% man-made product. And they thought that if they took, everybody thought back in the 60s, 70s, 80s that saturated fat is what clogged up your arteries and made you have heart disease and die. And we now know that that's not true. Saturated fats, healthy versions of saturated fats, are actually very good for you and they actually protect your heart. So what they did, they made margarine. It's typically from vegetables because they thought, again, saturated fats from meat and animals were toxic, which it can be. So they took vegetable oil, and what they did with that vegetable oil, they would heat it up to a high temperature under high pressure and inject hydrogen and nickel as a catalyst so that they would change the hydrogen bond inside of that from a cis to a trans and create a trans fat. What that did is takes a fat that's typically liquid at room temperature and make it a solid. So now you have solid vegetable oil that was gray and gross. So then they had to clean it up by giving it color and then giving it the flavor of butter. And there you have margarine. It is a trans fat. It is toxic to the inner linings of your arteries. It causes heart disease. It clogs up your cells, which leads to cancer. Guys, never, ever, ever should you have margarine. And I am not one to waste food or waste money, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you have margarine in your refrigerator right now, like Country Crock or Atlanta Lakes, whatever it is, and it says margarine or spread, throw it away. Tonight, when we're done here, I want you to take that. I want you to throw it away. You're killing yourself. If you want butter, what should you eat? I can hear y'all saying it. Eat butter. Now, don't get just any butter. Butter is from milk. Milk is from a cow, and we don't want conventionally raised cows. We want grass-fed cows. So if you're getting butter, it needs to be from a grass-fed cow, and the one that I typically buy and I recommend is called Kerrygold. You can get that at just about any store. It's called Kerrygold butter. I like the salted version, and when you do that, you're going to be actually creating health again because you're giving your body good fats. This is good saturated fat. I douse all of my vegetables in it. It's good for you. I typically buy mine at Costco because it's cheaper. So that was for you. So Costco is where I get my butter. All right. Diet soda drinks. We talked a little bit about these. These are those artificial sweeteners that make things taste good. So Coke Zero, well, how does it taste good then? How does it taste sweet? Well, they put different things in there, different chemicals that excite your brain. These are called excitotoxins. They are harmful for your brain. And if you look at studies about diet sodas and diet drinks, what you'll notice is this. People who drink diet sodas actually gain weight. The complete opposite of what it's marketed to do. It's marketed to make you lose weight, right? Because there's no sugar, and sugar is what makes you fat, and that's what gains the weight. No, what happens is you fill up your belly with a liquid that your body thinks had calories in it. Well, your body's not dumb, and it realizes after a little while that, hey, I just filled my belly, but I didn't get any calories. I need more calories. So what does it make you? It makes you hungry. Then you eat more. It's ridiculous. Don't drink soda drinks. There's only one thing that we really should be drinking. We should be drinking a lot of it, and it's only every single day we should all be drinking water. Good water. All right, so make sure you're drinking more water. Genetically modified foods or genetically modified organisms, GMOs. You guys have probably heard of GMOs before. The two things that are the biggest crops in the United States or even in the entire world that are GMO are soybeans, and corn. We have more corn than we know what to do with, and it's all been genetically modified. The reason why they genetically modify these, again, it's not for your health. I can guarantee you that. It's for the farmer's pocket. So we don't want the corn to die. So what we can do is we can spray pesticides on it. And actually, we don't. This is interesting. I watched a video not too long ago that kind of went in depth about the two versions of GMOs when it came to corn. And one was they didn't have to spray pesticides on it anymore because it was already a pesticide inside of it. So there was something that they did to it that a bug would eat it, their belly would swell up and explode. That's what it was designed to do. A genetically modified corn that we're going to now eat, but it's going to blow up their stomach. What the hell is it doing to our stomach? I mean, that's absolutely out of this world bonkers. Okay, and the other one is being Roundup Ready. Roundup Ready, if you guys know anything about Roundup and Monsanto and glyphosate, it's toxic to our body. It's been killing all of us, and we didn't even know it because it's on everything. You can't even get away from this stuff. It's the Roundup that you're using to spray the weeds in your house, which you should not do anymore. But what they've done is made these corn crops Roundup Ready, which means that they can now spray the entire field with Roundup, and the only thing that's going to die is the weeds, and the corn will be fine, which means that the corn sat there and got sprayed with glyphosate, which you're not going to eat. It absorbed into the corn. Of course it did. Guys, it is toxic to your gut lining. It destroys you. It leads to autoimmune diseases and all kinds of other problems. So when it comes to corn and soy, you really want to get those things organic. The other ones on there, canola. Canola, there's no such thing as organic canola. There's no such thing as canola. Canola stands for Canadian oil low acid. It was rapeseed oil that they changed and genetically modified it into something that wasn't toxic to the body, and they called it Canadian oil low acid or canola oil. Completely man-made. I don't use canola oil. I don't recommend it. That's another one. If you have in your house, throw it away. Hawaiian papaya, more than 50% of it. Sometimes zucchini and squash can be. And you'll know if things are organic by looking at the little PLU number, the little sticker. So if you look at those little stickers that the cashier types in to tell you if it's a zucchini or a tomato, if there's a 9 in front of it, that means it's organic. So 9 is fine. All right. If I think it's an 8, that means what they say, 8's not great. I believe that, or 6 also is genetically modified. So if you don't know if it's organic or not, if there's a 9 in front, that means it's fine. Okay. Number 9, commercial dairy. So I know there are a lot of people out there that still drink milk. I'm not one of them. We've all been taught, and it's ingrained in all of our heads, milk does a body good. Of course it does. So we've been taught that. Yes, thank you. We've been taught that, but it's not actually true. We all think that if we don't drink our milk, we're not going to get our what? Our calcium, and then our bones are going to be brittle, and that's going to lead to a disease called osteoporosis. I think you guys probably all filled in those blanks because we've all been trained to think that, and that's absolutely not true. The amount of calcium we get from milk and cheese is astronomical. We're getting way more calcium than we would ever need. You get the right amount of calcium from oranges and broccoli and spinach. You're even getting more than enough from those. Eat more of those things, you get the right amount of calcium. You do not need to overdo it by drinking your milk every single day because you're afraid of those things. That's ridiculous. But I'm going to tell you right now, that milk out there is typically going to be conventionally raised. Again, that's from the diseased cow that was fed corn. It's sick, which means it's been fed antibiotics, probably given growth hormones. Guess what? All that just went into your milk, and now you're drinking that milk from that sick cow, that medicated cow, and that hormone-altered cow. So we do not want that milk. If you're going to drink milk, no matter what I say, and there's some of you out there, and that's okay, let's make the best bad choice we can make, which would be 100% organic and grass-fed milk. If you have your own farm and you're drinking raw, that's even better. Okay, the non-pasteurized stuff is even better. But in some states it's illegal, which I don't understand. So we really want to make sure that if you're drinking milk for health benefits, you don't need to do that anymore. Okay, we can help you not need that anymore. But if you're drinking because you just love your milk and you're going to do it no matter what, please, please, please at least move to grass-fed and organic if you're going to do it at all. Okay. Other options you can do: almond milk, coconut milk. I've never in my life sat down and drank a glass of almond milk. I don't understand. I don't want to do that, but I do use almond milk. I do use coconut milk to make my smoothies. If you want your smoothies nice and thick and creamy, use the coconut milk in the can. I typically do half a can and half a can of water to even, because it's even too thick sometimes, or just use the almond milk. Number 10, seasoned packaged foods. This is the stuff we were talking about a little bit earlier. Doritos you're going to have the MSG, soup and soup mixes. I have soup on there twice. That's cool. Frozen meals. So these are things that they use different flavors for, and MSG poisoning. Again, MSG is an excitotoxin, and it can lead to MSG poisoning if you're eating too much of it, and that can lead to things like headaches and migraines. That's probably the most common thing people have. Mood swings and depression, hyperactivity. I see this in kids very easily. They'll eat something with MSG in it and they're off the wall, or they become really depressed, or they're just jerks to each other. It's like, what did you guys get in you? They probably ate something with the seasoning in it, whether it's the yeast extract or the MSG itself. So again, try to read those labels. Yeast extract, autolyzed yeast, sodium caseinate, hydrolyzed vegetable protein. These are all the same. Okay. So top 10 alternatives. So we kind of went through these already. This is going to be a little bit of a summarized version of it. Salad dressings, make your own. There's so many recipes on the internet. I make my own Caesar dressing. I make my own ranch dressing. If you go to my website, there's more recipes. So we have a ton out there. Candy, kick the habit. Don't eat it. If you're going to have it at all, dark chocolate's going to be your best bet. Make sure it's the good organic stuff. Eat 1, maybe 2 cubes or little slices. Don't eat a whole candy bar. Deli and packaged meats. If you're going to do it, find cleaner sources like Applegate Farms. White bread, get rid of the white bread and go to whole, sprouted, stone ground, or Ezekiel bread. Those are going to be your better versions if you're going to eat bread. Sprayed produce, we want to minimize our pesticide exposure. So really follow that Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen list that you can get off the EWG's website for free. Instead of margarine, let's use butter, olive oil, avocado oil. These are the oils and fats that I use in my house. Let's kick the habit of using vegetable oil, canola oil, sunflower, safflower. Those are all bad oils for you. Diet and soda drinks, let's do greens, green tea, and water. GMOs, let's go with the all natural foods and get rid of the genetically modified. And if you're going to do corn or you're going to do a soy, make sure it's organic. Commercial dairy, organic, grass-fed, even raw would be even better. And then the seasoned packaged foods, organic or natural alternatives. So a good example of a different version, a better version of Doritos is a brand called Siete, which is 7. And they actually sell this at Kroger now. They sell it at Publix. They sell it at Whole Foods, and they even sell it at Costco. And I love this brand because they make it with cassava flours. They make it with almond flour. They make it with seasoning that is all natural seasoning. Like for cheese, they're using what's that called? The nutritional yeast. And they're frying it, not in canola oil, not in vegetable oil. They're actually frying it in avocado oil, which is 2 thumbs up because that's the oil that you should use if you're going to fry anything. So Siete brand, they're a little bit more pricey, but they taste really, really good. And when things are a little bit pricey, you don't eat them as often, and that's probably better off for you anyway. All right. So if we're going to make some changes to our diet, now we've gone shopping. What do we do? Where are the recipes? How do we do this? What are some principles behind it? Well, with the Align Your Health book, which most of my patients should already have, if you don't have one, you can get these online. You can get them here at the office. It's called Align Your Health. And in that book, we have 2 plans. One, we have what's called the core plan. The core plan is what we're going to do is we're going to do fats. We're going to change our bad fats to good fats. So we're going to do grass-fed beef. We're going to do organic chicken. We're going to do wild-caught fish. We're going to get rid of the soybean oil and the vegetable oil and the canola oil. We're going to go to avocado oil, coconut oil, and olive oil. And we're going to eat more of those fats, which is a good thing, nuts and stuff like that. Our protein, we're changing up our protein like we've said. And the carbohydrates, we are going to get rid of the white stuff and bring in the brown stuff. So get rid of the refined carbs and bring in more whole carbohydrates. So your the whole grain breads, the brown rice, and sweet potatoes. Eat more vegetables. So the core plan is what we call our health maintenance plan. It's something that everybody could be on. Everybody should be on. I put this as my bottom rung. I don't ever go below this. This is very easy for families to implement. It's not hard to do. And I think everybody should be able to do that. Now, if you're looking for a more accelerated weight loss, if you're having bad issues with your health, type 2 diabetes, you're going to want to be on what we call the advanced plan. I referenced this earlier tonight. This is where you're going to take the core plan and add to it. And what we're going to add is more fat. We've already made it to good fat. Now we're going to do more fat. So I'm dousing everything I'm making that's hot in butter. I'm putting avocado oil in my smoothie. I'm just getting myself more fat because when you start to burn fat as a fuel, you're going to have more energy. You're going to think clearer. You're going to feel better. And you're going to be burning that fat off of your body and going back and reversing type 2 diabetes and just feeling fantastic. Protein. Now that we've already gotten to organic protein and grass-fed beef, now we're going to maybe tighten down on our portions. A little bit smaller portions, not big steaks, smaller steaks. Not 2 burgers, 1 burger. So we're going to start to minimize, because if you take in too much protein and your body can't handle it, it will turn it into fat. And that's not the fat that we want, okay? And then when it comes to carbohydrates, this is the big change. We are going to eliminate all grains. So even though we already improved our grains, here in this advanced plan, we're going to get rid of all grains altogether, all sugars, and all fruit, except for your organic berries, Granny Smith apples, and grapefruit. And you don't eat 2 pounds of strawberries and think that you're still on the plan. You need to minimize those. So what the whole purpose of that advanced plan is, go from a carbohydrate burner for energy to a fat burner for energy. And fat is much more efficient, but you need to really do this, and you need to do it right. You need to do it for about 3 weeks to really see that change, especially that first time. It can take 14 to 21 days to really see that flip that switch. But the day you do, you know it, because you wake up, you have all this energy. And I have patients that be like, I was up all night last night. I'm like, why? I had so much energy. I cleaned my house and this and that. I'm like, hey, that's awesome. But go to bed, get some rest. So guys, I hope you learned a lot here tonight. If you need help with any of these plans, I want you to let us know. You can always text us or shoot us an email. Again, if you haven't done so already, you can text shop to 770-345-9355, and we'll be glad to send back that shopping guide that we talked about here tonight. And I want to make sure that you are on our Facebook page. It's Moss Family Chiropractic. Make sure you like us and follow us there. We do have an email newsletter you can sign up for on our website. And our website, for my patients, I want you to understand something. We just revamped our websites, and it doesn't look very different from the front, but on the back end, it's completely different. It is so much better, so much more helpful. If you want new healthy recipes, you're looking for new recipes, go to my website and go into the search bar and type in, chicken, or type in nachos, or type in wings, and you're going to get all these different recipes that are already Maximize Living approved to be healthy. So I think that that is just about everything I wanted to talk about here tonight. I hope you guys learned a lot, and if you have any questions, let us know. I hope you have a great evening, and remember to choose to live better.